Hi, I'm Dr. Cheney. Today I'd like to talk about Vice, the movie about Dick Cheney, the Vice President of the United States. It's a brilliant film. I don't know if it'll win an Academy Award, but in my world, where I vote for the best script, I voted for Vice, which was written by Adam McKay, directed by Adam McKay. Adam McKay had done a brilliant film called The Big Short, and Dick Cheney is played brilliantly by Christian Bale, and Amy Adams plays Liz Cheney exceedingly well, showing how ruthless she was, and Christian Bale shows how ineffectual Dick Cheney was. Now, I don't like Dick Cheney. He knows that. There's no issue in my world about the fact that he is the most despicable, cowardly politician I have ever known. I never wanted to meet him. I've known about him from the Nixon administration, where he refused to serve our country 11 different times, although that's not shown in the movie. He was totally inept and incompetent. It was so bad that Dr. Kissinger and Nixon, whom I didn't totally admire, even had to get rid of Rumsfeld, his partner, which is played by Stephen Carell. And they came back under the Ford administration, a very weak president, and in turn, Cheney went up the ladder of politics. The film shows brilliantly how an alcoholic bum, literally a bum, who has no job, thrown out of Yale, comes up the ladder of politics to get into the position where he's minority whip. He's Secretary of Defense, although he's a total coward, will never go to war to sacrifice his own life, but send others to war as he did in Iraq, and then took over power as he did in 9/11. It shows brilliantly how Cheney was the mastermind behind 9/11. It doesn't point directly to the fact that he created the false flag, but it shows how he brought together all the Jewish neocons who also were draft dodgers, Wolfowitz, Scooter Libby, Doug Feith, David Wormser, and a whole bunch of others, but it shows exactly how ineffectual Condoleezza Rice was and how ineffectual Colin Powell was. It's a brilliant film which has a certain amount of humor, but it's a biting humor, which makes me want to think about one question. How is it that in this republic we allowed such despicable individuals to come to power and remain in power, and even after they commit criminal acts, which 9/11 was and the war in Iraq was, they are allowed to go free? The question really is also, how is it that people without any talent come to power? And I'm thinking of yesterday's New York Times, which indicted Amy Klobuchar, who is the Democratic senator from Minnesota, and how despicable her behavior has been to her own staff. She is the one senator where she has the greatest number of staff turnover. She denigrates her staff. She belittles them. She has, in effect, over years, never accomplished any legislation. I watched her and monitored her because she was on the board of directors of Mosaic Mine, this mine which we're fighting, and I'm going to guarantee you will not come into Bradford County because they have already killed in Brazil 222 people in the Vale Corporation disaster of the mine which fell apart, and they have 88 other mines and gypsum stacks which will destroy more and more people. But let's get back to Klobuchar, who I find is the equivalent to Dick Cheney, a woman who has accomplished nothing, a lawyer with very little intellectual gravitas, and a woman who has very little emotional empathy. So how does she get to power? By the simple fact that she's ruthless, will allow herself to be whatever she needs to be in order to get up the chain of politics, and then decides that she will denigrate anybody around her who does not promote her. So in the words of the famous saying, which power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely, I would say that Dick Cheney, Amy Klobuchar is in there. But one more important quote. Teddy Roosevelt said, whenever you have a senatorial vote and they say yes, what they really mean, Roosevelt said, is, I'm not guilty. Thank you, good night, and good luck.